Tim Mahalski here, TYT Network. Tina Dupuis was on the ground in Wisconsin this weekend. Tina, before we talk about what happened this weekend with you, when you were going to Wisconsin, we've seen footage from Fox, we've seen footage all over. What was your intentions going to Wisconsin?
Well, I thought it was going to be a mob scene. I thought that people were going to be angry. I mean, from the media coverage, people were angry, people were upset. They were all going to the Capitol building. It was going to be, a mob scene, and people were getting arrested, and the cops were there. I thought it was going to look like I thought it was going to be a riot.
Yeah.
I got on the ground just as the Assembly had passed the bill.
Okay.
So it first went through the Senate, and then it was the Assembly, and then I was inside the Capitol building as Governor Walker was signing the bill. He said the Assembly did it in the cover of darkness, and it was this secret little ceremony. They didn't allow press in, and so Scott Walker said that he was going to do it in a, quote, open ceremony. He allowed the press to be in there. We found out later that he had signed it that morning, and so that was another, deception on his part. But at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Capitol, there were a bunch of people who showed up to essentially, in a very Wisconsinite fashion, just say shame, shame, shame.
Right.
These were like the nicest chants you'd ever, like they kept on saying thank you to people that they agreed with, and shame, shame, shame to those. It was like, talk about dialogue. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, so I turn on my camera. I talk to this guy who's standing next to me, and it's right as the ceremony's going on and the press is inside. And he said that he worked at the university.
Right.
And so I turned on my camera, and this is what he said.
So tell me your name.
Ken Larson.
And where do you work, Mr.
I work
Larson?
for the university. I work on the elevator crew through the electric shop.
And this year you're retiring?
Yes, retiring in June, prompted by all of the goings on. I had planned to retire in December, but I can't take the chance.
How many years do you have in?
I have with the university 17 years.
And what does this mean to you?
It started out to me as an issue between collective bargaining and the fact that I'm a Vietnam vet. That's all right. Well, when he talked about the National Guard, it became personal. He talked about bringing out the Guard, hinting that the Guard would be gone. It became personal. But I'm over all that now. That's behind me. What it's really personal to now are my grandchildren. I don't want them to be deprived because this guy has to give it to Miller. He doesn't deserve that. He doesn't. My grandkids deserve better than that. So this became personal to me, very personal now, because of all the families, the poor, moderate income families that he's depriving of a better life. That's the best I can say.
I mean, it was, you almost feel for him because you see that how
Almost?
this is going to.
Wait, what?
Not almost. You feel for him because this seems as though this is truly going to affect his life Monday. This seems like this is really hitting home for him. And he brings up that he's a vet. And, like we've seen in the past, anytime there's a vet involved, that usually is a sign for a Republican to jump on board and turn this into patriotism. But
Unless it's about vets being taken care of after they get back from the war. It was incredibly heartbreaking being there. I mean, he was crying, I was crying, there were people chanting. And it's like, this is someone who's done everything right. He's served his country.
Yeah.
He came back, he got a good job, he's been working at the university.
Working hard.
And he's done everything right. And now he's going to have to retire early, and the thought that his grandchildren are not going to have a better life than he has after he, went and fought overseas is really very emotional for him. Yeah. And there was a lot of other people that I talked to that their children are now going to go to college, and because of these cuts, they're not going to the $700 a month that they were going to have, that they were going to send to their kid to college with, is no longer going to be there. And and a lot of them are visibly upset. Now, a colleague of mine saw that video, and what he said was, "This is what Wisconsinites look when they're mad." And I mean, it was like, and that people would walk around. But what I didn't get a sense that we were at a memorial or a funeral, and people were sad and angry, but they weren't giving up. They were very resolute. They really believed that they were going to win this one, and it was so egregious and so wrong what Walker's been doing to them that they can't conceptualize how this is going to actually work.
You spoke with a boy who was in middle school when you were there, and he was great to hear, because you hear how this is actually going to affect someone who's in schools now.
Right, who's actually has teachers that are being affected. Grade are you in?
I'm in 7th grade, but...
How's your teacher?
Our teachers are like really nice and really supportive and stuff, so I think it's crap what they're going through right now.
Yeah.
It is crap.
I think it's crap what they're going
he couldn't be more right.
I know. He was great.
Yeah, I mean, you should have taken him back. You should have brought him back here. And
you want him to be our mascot?
Yeah, he should, because he's right. It totally is crap that these teachers that are teaching kids like him to, that are going to one day lead this country. Why are we, punishing them? So I spoke with a Republican who was saying that, they brought up the whole, if this is a household, we need to cut expenses. You can't go to Starbucks when you're broke, is what they were saying with the whole union.
Right.
And I was like, well, that doesn't really make much sense. And what about all the corporations that are getting all these cuts? Well, you're cutting revenue in, so if this is a household, you're going to cut revenue in? You're
going to quit your extra job.
Yeah.
And then not send your kids to school.
Yeah, it doesn't add up, and I just feel like Scott Walker is completely... What do you see this for 2012 elections?
Well, I mean, they're going to have a special election on April 5th, and I think that we'll be able to see on April 5th what's going to go on in Wisconsin and whether these people are fired up enough to recall their senators and eventually recall Walker.